calibrated it with my Caldwell and the FX Chrono also. The readings are same. 2 FPS here and there really doesn't matter. You don't want it not be accurate. With a chronograph, you know that your gun is shooting within a certain FPS band. If it is moving, first shot is going at, let's say, 900 FPS, second shot is going at 810 FPS, 820 FPS, which happens, then you have a problem. Your groups will never be accurate. At 10 yards, yes. 15 yards, yes. The moment you cross the 20-25 yard line mark, finish. You will be like, arey, 10 yards, 15 yards, perfect mark here. Udhar kya ho raha hai? So, a crony is the only way that you can check, and you have to check your gun. And then finally, on the last check for the accuracy is your hardware check. Number one, your scope. Okay, scope mount, most important. Even if you have Chinese scope mount, kuch problem nahi hai. Ensure that they clamp down well, and especially on springers, use Loctite like 243. That's more than enough on your screws of your scope. And I suggest and recommend everyone to use a scope mount with a recoil pin. Every brake barrel has a recoil pin ka hole. The best thing you can do on a brake barrel is put a single piece mount, be it zero recoil mount or be it a normal single piece mount. So what happens is more clamping surface, it takes up that whole rail. So when you put a 2-piece mount, there are only 2 clamps, right? And you see that many times I've seen scopes, including me, it has thrown off the scope. Suddenly while shooting, kaat mein aa gaya scope, or fallen down on the ground. So it has happened, especially on the Dynas, the 350 Magnum, Dyna Panther. Oh fuck, pahla to tera cheek jayega. Second thing is that scope jayega. Okay, and people who tell me and ask me, bhai मैं आपसे scope ले रहा हूँ, 25,000, 30,000 का scope, वो चलेगा ना? ऐसे चलेगा, सब गन्स पे चलेगा, सिर्फ swingers पे नहीं. हाँ, उसके लिए ले रहा हूँ, उसके लिए expensive. ऐसे मत डालो. Even a fucking Leopold, I have seen brick. A guy from Kolhapur, poor guy, wanted a 126 with the red dot in the center. He paid $65,000 for that scope. 65,000 red dot reticle. Khalas. He put the best of mounts on it, but it has not lasted. So I don't recommend if you have a scrap scope or whatever. So many people said that the UTG scopes are good for a springer, and that's like the gold standard for springers that many people use.
I have my own personal experience. Like the UTG ones, so center point and UTGs. I have been using the same center point
Correct.
on all my springers. I have switched from Dyna 350 Magnum, Indian made, National, AK, Dyna, whatever the guns came across now. It's been running still 14 years and still running great. Okay.
Yes.
So actually, I suggest UTG, center point or leapers to all the springer users. Okay, it's a matter like where we get it. Like we don't get it so easily in India right now, but it was available at the time. So I would suggest everyone to go with center point, leapers or UTG. These three, and the way they mount it.
Correct.
So I got a guy a center point scope, okay, like 42640 center point for a Dyna 350 Magnum. I gave that guy the scope. I was stuck with some work. So I told the guy, you keep the scope at home, I'll come tomorrow morning and zero the gun. He told like, I'll do that. So I told like, make sure everything is right and good. So next morning I went there, I zeroed the gun was zeroed within 10 shots. It was perfectly on spot. I gave the gun over to him. Okay, the hold changes now, like I will hold in some position and he will hold in some position. He wanted to re-zero the gun. The next day after that, like I went in, I couldn't see a damn thing through the scope. It was all like spot. So I asked him like, what happened? He told like the scope is like something bad. I told like, no chance man. Tell me the truth, what all you did. So he told like, I tried zeroing. I tried 500 pellets for zeroing. Still I couldn't zero. So I was keeping on shooting now. Suddenly the reticle, the lens went off very dull. So like I was like worried. Then I asked him like, did you take everything off and then put it by yourself? He has done the same. What he has done now, he didn't put the stopper pin in the exact position, whereas the scope is like slightly upwards in the rear. So what if with every shot now, the scope has like, it will bang on the gun.
It has become a recoil scope.
What zero recoil. He has tested it with 500 pellets.
It become a recoil mount.
Yeah, he has tested with 500 pellets. Completely the scope is gone.
So that doesn't happen with all these big bore rifles or what?
So with big bore also there's only so the problem with springers there are two moments. Dhap dhap. There is like dhap dhap. So the scopes are meant even in 338 Lapua you put a Bushnell scope also it will take that recoil. Dhap dhap dhap. You put a cheap scope on an Indian 30 also it will take that recoil. Dhap dhap. You put it on an expensive scope on a Springer, it is dhap dhap. The scopes are not meant for that 2 hits. So it jerks the whole mechanism. Imagine someone catching you and pushing you like.
So practically, I think then these
thinking that usually most of the people what they do is like take a costly scope that is a high caliber rifle scope and put it on a Springer, thinking that it will
Basically,
so
nobody knows.
that means when you
People
put
don't
that
know.
those mounts with a spring inside and a
That's called zero
small
recoil.
rod, zero recoil.
See, I have
So
seen.
those work or what?
See, they work
I
up
think
to some
they-
extent. I am not
they'll
saying
do
no.
the same thing, no?
But there is a other school of thought on that also. If you go up to these forums and put recoil mounts, zero recoil mounts or whatever, there is a other school of thoughts which that exponentially creates that extra vibration. The
even
scopes are
we will
gone.
get a lot of doubt like whether to use it or not. There are lots of forums saying like the zero recoil shouldn't be used at all. They say, like, it's not a mount to be used on even it is Springer now. You shouldn't use that at all. They have lots of
So there is a mixed thought on that.
That also.
Mixed thought. There's a mixed thought of line on that.
If you tell somebody there is a two-way recoil in a Springer, people are not ready to believe it. Yeah. Because they don't know.
Fact.
You need to explain it to them. That is the difference. But if you are using it on a firearm, nothing happens. Like you said, firearm has got a one-way recoil. Springers have a two-way recoil. And our scopes are not meant for two-way recoil.
None of the optics.
None of the optics are meant for, even if it is, they'll write it airgun rated. It is not meant for a two-way recoil.
So like not even red dot sights or other.
None of them. All of them, they
They're
bang, they
basically meant
jerk.
for one-way recoil.
That I understood, no other optics. So all you have to do if you want to sustainably keep a Springer, what you're trying to say is you either have a aperture sight or open analysis.
So you can use scope, but the way to use it is use a one-piece mount.
It decreases the life so fast. Like
It will degrade a scope quickly.
I just bought this new Discovery side focus with the tree reticle, right? And I was using it on an iOS 22. As soon as I shifted it to a Springer, the parallax switch fucked up.
Correct.
It just goes round and round. In the afternoon I was like, I need a technical. वो सब लगाने के बाद Loctite लगाने के बाद the mount was still moving backwards. We did so much circus to we stripped the
No,
whole.
single piece mount is the way to go. So the gold standard in air curring for Springers always was the sports match damper mounts. You ask, go to any UK forum, either Dampa mount. They have a cushioning rubber piece or something that way. I've not opened one, so I don't know. But that has been the gold standard. It looks like a single piece mount, but it has some kind of cushioning inside.
What about the Gammo scope stoppers? The one at the end.
Those are stoppers.
They also have a rubber buffer to avoid. I saw it on the Gammo
one,
here
yeah.
today. So there's this 11mm rail. There's a razor, and behind that razor is a small block.
Correct.
Same 11mm, but it has a silicone rubber
Correct.
kind of a stopper at the end. So, do these accessories except the zero recoil mount?
So I've seen that even on websites. I've seen them selling that separately also. They clamp it onto the rail separately.
You put a stopper on the scope to hold it.
No, that's the pin.
No, on the base of the rail.
The pin and this does the same job. Even some rails which don't necessarily have a stopper.
Stopper.
So in those
That's when they
cases
put
you
this
use
particular thing.
The pressy holes don't
Recoil
have to
buffer or
deep
something it
enough,
is called, no? Recoil buffer or something like that. So that was regarding the scope. Another few checks to do is, of course, if you're shooting PCPs, please look at your O-ring which is on your pellet, either on your pellet probe or either at the start of the barrel. Okay, if that is not proper, your shots will go all over the place. And your chronograph will tell you that. When you chronograph earlier, if you're shooting all over the place, please check that main O-ring. Because I've seen many people shooting and the air is hitting their face. When they close the bolt and they take the top, there is air. Or there is very little air. So the check to do is put a tissue paper on the breech without a pellet loaded, close the thing and shoot. If the tissue paper moves, then you need to reseal that thing properly.
HW44.
So your thing might be perfect, but even that little leak from that O-ring will create accuracy issues. So please sort that out. Your barrel screws, your barrel retaining screws, very important. So I faced that in my own PCP. Okay, I had to swap from my other PCP the screws and put it in that because the screws were backing out. And the first thing which you will come to know properly is when you put the magazine inside, if it starts getting very loose to go in, then you know your barrel is moving away. When the barrel is moving away, the transfer port from the gun is not lining up with the transfer port in the barrel. So your FPS will be all erratic. It will be all over the place. And again you will have a very loud sounding gun from the breech. Top. You will hear the sound on the breech. Okay.
And another one thing, like I would like to say, like now we are using some adapters on the PX100, right? Usually we put some adapter on the PX100 and then we thread the suppressor on it. People do. I got a complaint. I got a PX100 which was not shooting enough. Tick, stop there. Tick, and it stopped there. So I was like worried, like what is the problem and so on. The gun is not leaking. The gun is having 200 bar of air in it. And the gun is even, and the magazines and everything is working fine. Then when I opened up the gun, later I found out the guy, the barrel retaining screws has become a little loose, but he has kept on tightening the suppressor now.
So the barrel only has turned.
Done is like he has twisted the whole
transfer port
to the side.
So what our manufacturer should do, okay, which FX air guns have, they have a slot in their breech, which goes only one way. Even your Walters, even your thing, there is only one way to go and there's a cross pin which will block it. So your transfer port will always be aligned in that position. That is something which our guys are lacking, which is PX100, and also I think the gear doesn't have that. So they need to have a slot on the breech of the gun where the barrel has a lip, and that lip should match there.
The retaining screw in gear is like bigger than the PX100. So what happens is like it will move very
easily.
Like more than the PX100, gear is
an easier solution to that. A cheaper solution would be on the barrel, make a flat surface instead of leave it a round surface. So that
no, these barrels have a divot.
No divot. Divot doesn't work as well as a flat surface. A flat surface stays even better. So when you turn it, it doesn't have anywhere to go.
But actually the thing is like...
Acha, you're saying make the barrel profile which fits into the breech flat.
No.
Or the retaining screws.
Where the retaining screw holds the barrel down.
Already the bottom
Make
of the
surface
flat. If you take
No, I got it. But that will still, the profile of the barrel will still be round only, no? You're making just a cut. You're milling a cut right on the barrel.
For instance, when you're putting the valve tube inside the thing, the screw comes on the
That's
flat
cheaper
thing.
for the manufacturers.
It doesn't move after that.
This is your breech.
Just to tap it for a couple of millimeters inside and just let the retaining screw fit in the back, like they used to do with engine wrappers.
So your best friend in such situation is, I learned my lesson. Use Loctite 243 after you set your thing and fucking forget about it. Let it set for 1 hour, don't start going and shooting immediately.
So this is your retaining screw over here, right? This is the breech hole. इसके ऊपर ये जो
tire
barrel है,
hunting
ये वाला जो surface है इसको थोड़ा flat खींच दो barrel. ये retaining screw जो है ना वो flat surface को पकड़ेगा, ये घूमने ही नहीं देगा.
अरे problem क्या है? The retaining screws back out.
So, but we are fixing it with the this thing, na?
If you don't fix, that's what I'm saying. The solution is Loctite.
Loctite is there, but twisting the barrel in the breech.
No,
Like
but I
this guy
still,
like Satya told.
I'm telling you, I still think the FX का design
FX वाला
inside the
have
thing going
that is
That
very
is the
good.
best.
That is the
Because
best
even if you
thing.
look at the, when you're servicing the impact, and that valve tube is sticking out, and that has the flat divot on it which you fit next to the gauge behind it. That thing, even after you do that, it moves a little bit. So the flat design is not the best design. I think the one that we have on our impact is that slight protrusion.
Yes, exactly.
And that's a strong one. Right?
That's a strong
You're not
one,
like,
yeah.
It doesn't turn.
It doesn't turn at all. It's like fat. That's it.
Okay, so a barrel screw. Second thing is many guns don't have barrel bands. Okay. Now the impact and all don't have a barrel band, but their barrel is very stiff. To make the barrel stiffer, they have put stainless steel tubes, carbon fiber tubes, Lavda tubes, Lasun tubes, many tubes on it to make it stiff. The idea is to get your barrel stiff and not bend. अरे हाँ,
Carbon fiber tube.
stainless steel. So the trick is whatever you put, like the PX100 and even the thing, they have a very superb system. They have a barrel band, and the very important part that many people if they dismantle their gun, if they don't put that small little O-ring which is there, that O-ring is very crucial in that PX100 or the gear. That also does a lot with your harmonics of the gun.
But on one hand, they talk about floating barrels being very good for harmonics and for accuracy and everything. On the other hand, they take a floating barrel and they put this.
I'll tell you why. On firearms,
Same point.
on firearms, a floating barrel will work because you enclose that other part of the barrel in such a way that the barrel doesn't flex. In air guns and the firearm barrels are minimum like 17 mm, 18 mm, 21 mm. Our air guns PX100 is 12 mm OD. Okay, it's a very flimsy barrel. And you press the barrel with the barrel band also like this.
Yeah, it will go like slightly.
Okay, so if you see a break barrel rifles are very strong. Metallurgy is very different. The 15 mm OD minimum and the metallurgy is very different. So that's why when you break, usually that what do you call that? Barrel droop. Barrel droop happens after many shots. It doesn't happen immediately. So that floating barrel does work in a firearm because of the thickness, but in an air gun, how thin is your liner, which is your barrel? It's nothing. So it needs like solid support to actually clamp it down.
Recently, with the firearm also, they are putting harmonic tuners. I've seen a couple of videos of that also. With the firearm also,
Eric Cortana.
It's a floating barrel.
So that concept only has come into FX air guns, which they have incorporated it. There's a guy called Tim Swan. He started off that thing.
He's built his own thing now. No?
Yeah, man, but our FX guys, before Tim Swan started commercially making, they bloody CNC'd a product and got it into the market. Okay. Action screws converted. Third, the fourth very important point are your moderators. Air guns, when you shoot, or firearms, when you shoot without a suppressor or anything ahead, sometimes shoot very accurately. The moment you put a suppressor on, the fucking shots are all over the place. You can check first for the barrel, the clipping, whether it is clipping. Look at the suppressor, see if it is clipping. If it is not, it is a simple thing that your bloody suppressor has changed the barrel harmonics. And it is not. On the other hand, I've seen even PX100s, okay, there's an issue. Without a moderator, they shoot horrible. The moment you put a very good moderator on it, the groups tighten up very fine. So my gun has that problem. If I shoot without a silencer, so I have a two-piece. I have a piece which slides onto the barrel and another silencer which fits on top. If I remove these things out and I shoot, the PX100 shoots all over the place. But the moment I connect it, it's a hole-in-hole group. So these long time back, in the good old days, people used to put rubber tubes, rubber ka thing which is just undersized onto your barrel. They slide it onto your barrel, like 1 inch away from the barrel. They shoot a group, 5 shots. Okay, group is okay. They move it maybe a centimeter at the back, 5 shots. Move it a centimeter back. Sometime in that cycle, suddenly the groups will start shrinking, and again they'll start opening. So that node which they have caught of putting that thing actually improves the harmonics of the barrel. But that usually happens in firearms, but I've seen it happen in my air gun with a moderator.
What about
Barrel tuner.
Because the vibration is always going to be there, right?
So no. So I don't know the technical. Then I'll try to attempt it. When you shoot, there is a wave which is formed. There's a crest and a trough. Okay. The moment the crest or the trough, whatever is exiting the barrel, whatever is the last node, okay, is what decides the accuracy for that particular twist rate for that barrel.
Accuracy nahi, POI.
Why accuracy?
Accuracy POI because see, when you that becomes your point of impact.
When I say accuracy, I'm saying the bullets all hitting together, bunching together. You call it accuracy, you call it POI, semantics.
Not necessarily, because the harmonic is always going to have the same, because the material is the same, the power output is going to be the same unless you are actually increasing the flow of air or whatever. Agar wo nahi kar rahe ho, so it is always going to have the same waveform. So the point
these tuners upset that wave. These tuners upset that wave. Oh, wave ko change kar. So I'll tell you, there are 2 waves which goes in a air gun. The one which shoots in the front, second wave is coming back. So you get the ting sound in your guns. The ting is because, of course, your hammer hitting the wall, the tank and all that. The second thing is there is a wave in the barrel also. 1 and 2. So where you cut off that wave, whichever is by that barrel tuner, wherever you place that weight or whatsoever, that if you get that right node, and you will get it at some point in time, that is the sweet spot for your gun.
But is it not the same every time? So your
No,
POI,
no.
because a bigger group means your POI is changing.
So your gun,
Or
I'll
erratic.
give you an example in your gun. Okay, all these Avengers, if you shoot from the factory, you will say, oh fuck, Avenger nahi chahiye ye gun. But the moment you do some tricks to it and you put a nice harmonic tuner inside the baffle which is done to your gun, and then you change the baffle stack, it will stack a pellet on pellet. Okay, so your barrel has a tuner in the front which is put, which also acts as an air stripper. So if you see, suddenly sometimes you'll find air hitting, when you hold the barrel on top, you'll find air coming out from there. That is because I've redirected all that air, I've stripped the air out. Almost 70% of your air is stripped out from there and it's moving to your barrel at the back. Because there's a very fine thing I've kept on, like a 5.2 mm hole where only the pellet can go through and the rest of the air is redirected backwards. So there is no fuck all air going behind the pellet to make it go all over the place. So you see your gun, similar like that.
So why didn't they do
with
it?
me also? The Pramod wala silencer, which
So why didn't they do it?
I don't know, ask them.
Just
They really,
I mean,
I don't know, manufacturing, whatever.
So the
No
end of the device, the end of the muzzle, will that be considered the second crowning?
Will that be considered the second one?
crowning.
Second crowning. So you got crowning on your
Correct.
No.
It's not making contact with them.
No, what I'm trying to say is, you got crowning with your barrel, your pellet exits, and the work of the crowning is to redirect air equally on all sides, pressure equally, because if there's more on one side, it will droop the other way. So when it exits your barrel, and this is something because I've been working on stuff, so when it exits the barrel, and those washers between them, to each of that washer counts as a separate crowning.
Yeah, they just strip air.
They strip air.
So your crown actually, if your crown is imperfect, is what I'm saying, if it has a cut or whatsoever, it tilts the pellet towards one side.
Yeah.
Okay, it will tilt it towards one side. The baffles and all don't do anything like that. If your pellet is tilted, you're fucked because the first shot on you'll clip all the baffles on it. Okay, so all the barrels, all the Avengers, the barrel has been reworked on by me. I put a new crown on their gun.
So
Yeah.
You've had to make a cut, right?
Yeah, I had to make a cut. There are new crowns on his gun. There's no barrel which is a standard. Because in the Avenger barrels, it's a straight cut. They work excellent, huh? They work
Actually,
excellent.
without even the crowning, that works actually.
Excellent.
That's the main thing about Avenger. Every reviewer and abroad, like they mentioned that, like this is a flat cut
Simply,
barrel
yeah,
without any
that will be
kind of
extra
crowning,
blade.
but works.
So they broke science, that thing which you need a crown, you need a crown. So they made a very superb cut. But many barrels guns which came to India, now I saw the barrel, when you keep it on the table, the barrel is tilted towards one side. It will never hold like that. So I could make out there is like